All right. Kelly and Drew, I'll give the word to you and tell us all about what you know.
Okay, may not be much. I think other people know a lot more than we do. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. We got a lot of requests after the Keuring 101 Part 1 that people really were more curious about what actually happens at the Keuring. So we'll cover as much as we can. I agree with what Liz said. Let's make it interactive. The questions really help us expand on what we're trying to get across to you all. So you can, there's a chat. You can put questions in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that. And then we can also have questions and answers at the end. But if you have any specific questions when we're on a particular slide, put that in the chat. I'll start by saying we've done videos in these webinars before. They don't stream very well. We'll do the best that we can. They might be a little choppy. But one thing that I did put in here is a link to the YouTube channel. Liz made an entire playlist of a lot of Keuring videos we collected from different people that have put them up. And there's a lot of really good videos on there that you can really kind of see how the classes go, and get you a better idea of what to expect. So the first is just, we'll start with a little just a bit of paperwork. When you get to the Keuring site, you're going to check in with the host. Make sure that you have all the veterinary tests and paperwork that the host has required and asked you to supply. Make sure that you pay all of your fees, whether you have stalls and bedding. A lot of hosts will collect the payment for the handlers and then pay the handlers directly that way. I think it varies, but that seems to be the most popular option. You'll get your bridle numbers, I think, when you check in, and get a schedule of the day. So you'll have an idea. You should have the schedule ahead of time so you have an idea of when you're going to go. This is a screen that was from the previous webinar that we did, just what classes are offered. You've got the young horses that covers foals, yearlings, and 2-year-olds. Stud book and star for mares, stallions, and geldings 3 years and older. Stud book reinspection for star mare for cur and elite. Then you have your pre-advice for 2-year-old stallions, licensings for stallions 3 and older, and then the performance test, which is the IBOP. And then in dressage, you have the DG Bar Cup. Jumping, you have the GES Cup, which is a global equine sires cup, and then fine harness in the harness breeding direction.
Kelly, I have a question in the chat. Can I interrupt you?
Yes, ma'am.
Lisa van Straten is asking, why would we pay for a handler? What do they do? Can you explain that really well? Or one of the other people that has experienced at Keurings? What is so important about a handler, guys? You can unmute yourself.
I'll let you take this one, Caitlin.
So you have the option of handling the horse yourself, or oftentimes, like at our Keuring, we provide a handling service where we will take the horse from you and stand it up in front of the judge, and so that that they can see the horse properly. A lot of times, you know, when you're dealing with young horses, sometimes the handlers are not as experienced, and so it's very important that you have someone that either has done it before or that knows what they are doing so that they can show your horse off to its best potential to the judges. And it just depends. You're more than welcome to do it yourself, but I would highly recommend that you practice and that you've seen someone else do it ahead of time in order to show your horse to its best potential.
If I can add to that, also for the owners, even when you are experienced or a good horse handler, it's good for you to be able to stand back and watch and take it all in and listen to the judge's remarks. And depending on the age of your horse, for the youngsters, you know, you're not going to get a linear score sheet. So everything goes by quick. So you really want to be able to pay attention and absorb as much as you can. And with the older horses, it's quite helpful to have the handlers handle your horse for the linear scoring and the walk and trot on the hard surface, because your horses are in a different atmosphere. So a normally sweet horse might act up, and it's especially practice like measuring if you're not going to have a handler, because the handlers are just excellent at dealing with the fractious young horses in those different situations. So I would say it's definitely worth the money. It's a big day for your horse. So really consider using a handler.
Are there any other questions, Liz, right now?
No, Lisa said, okay, good to know, thanks. So
Okay.
can you please proceed, Kelly?
All right, so we'll start with what to expect for the young horse classes. So young horses are classified as foals, yearlings, and 2-year-olds. They'll all be presented in their own age groups by breeding direction and by gender. So first and second premiums are given to foals, yearlings, and 2-year-olds. There's no predicates that come with these classes. The foals have to be a minimum of 4 weeks old at the time of the Keuring, and they're to be presented in a brown or black leather halter. The 2-year-olds can be presented in a bridle, and if you're going for like a pre-advice class for a 2-year-old colt, you'll definitely want to present him in a bridle as well. The young horses are not to be shod, so they cannot have shoes on unless it's a 2-year-old going for the pre-advice class. Foals are typically presented with their dams. Some people have asked me before if they, maybe they have a super early foal and they want to wean before the Keuring. It's totally fine. It just depends on how old your horse is and how you think that they will present best, but typically they present best at the dam side. Both the dam and the foal should be braided for the class, and you'll need 2 handlers. You'll need one for the mare and one for the foal. The yearlings and the 2-year-olds are obviously presented alone, so then you only need 1 handler for them. We got a few videos of young horse classes. Hopefully we can get them to work.
Yep. So in order to do this, I have to stop sharing the PowerPoint screen and go to the other site. So bear with me for just a second.
Can I quickly ask a question before you begin?
Yep.
Do the mares wear bridles, or are the leather halters okay for them? If a bridle is a bling brow band, is that okay or not?
I think Caitlin knows. She's
Caitlin.
smiling like she knows.
Yeah, I mean, typically, I think as long as it's not too outrageously blingy, if you would ride in it in a competition, I think you can wear it in there. Typically, we prefer bridles on our mares if it's possible. Sometimes with recipient mares and things like that, it's not always the case. But that's up to the discretion of the person handling the horse. I don't believe it's a requirement.
Okay, thank you. Let's try and watch a video and see if the connection is good enough. Which one are you going to show now, Kelly and Drew?
The first one I have is an Iron Spring Farm offspring, and then we also have Cariska owned by Gail Atkins. So if I can get it to come up, there we go.
I think Justine owns her now, right? But she's bred by Gail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, how does that look to everybody?
A little bit choppy to me, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to show the entire videos. We could go on for a really long time, but we can talk about this a little bit. This is obviously a older, maybe a yearling, doing the free movement. The other video we have shows them being stood up and handled and then being turned loose. So I just wanted a couple options for everybody. So hang on and I'll go to the other one.
Kelly, is there a specific order at the Keuring? So first they're going to be measured, and then like, what is the order in which everything happens? Can you tell us more about that?
I'll let Caitlin or Megan handle that one as well.
Yeah.
Megan, did you want to take it?
No,
or
no, you go.
Okay.
You go, Caitlin. You're way more professional than me.
Well, are we specifically talking with these young horses? The only ones that they actually measure are the 2-year-old stallions for advice. Otherwise, the young, as far as I've ever known, we don't measure yearling and 2-year-olds.
No, but the stud book mares, the 3-year-olds get measured,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
but sorry,
we were
she
just
was
talking about that.
we were just
sorry.
talking about young horses right
sorry.
now. So
Okay.
but But yeah, so typically they only would measure then the 2-year-old for advice in this particular order. But we always, I think it depends on the Keuring, how your schedule goes, because sometimes they make the office makes the schedule for the Keuring, and sometimes the host makes the schedule. But we typically always do the IBOP writing classes first. And then we do, after that, we'll do the stud book inspections. And so then you'll do measuring first, hard surface, and then it goes by group, and then you will go into free movement if needed.
Okay. It says in the chat, everything I've read said that the yearlings are not shown at Liberty. Does it depend on the facility? I think they're always shown at Liberty, right?
Yeah.
Where did
Yeah,
you read?
The old rule was that they didn't get shown at Liberty, only the foals and the 3-year-olds and older, and the 2-year-old stallions for advice did Liberty. But we changed the rules a few years ago. Now, if a horse isn't showing itself well, normally the handler will take that horse and the yearling and trot it in hand. But then they can judge the canter if they're loose.
Exactly, because the free movement is mostly so they can see the canter, right? And of course the trot, but
And their balance and
Yeah.
how they use their body.
yeah.
Are you all seeing this video?
Yeah, it starts now.
Okay. So this is going to be a foal with her dam, and you'll be able to see how both mare and foal are braided, how they stand them up, and then where they take the halter off of the foal. And in this particular one, Yanko leads the mare around. Some people prefer for the mare and foal not to do Liberty and want the mare led, but I have seen where they let both go as long as they're behaving themselves.
Yeah, some mares just get too crazy. And you
Yeah.
really need to practice that. And you don't want the foal to get kicked. So it's all,
Right.
that's kind of up to you and the handler and how the mare's acting that day.
But Yanko
can
is a,
Oh, sorry.
no, go
I was
ahead,
just going to
Megan.
mention something about the handlers again. So in that write-up, it said you need 2 handlers. So the professional handlers aren't available for the walk around. So what that means is the owner needs to have 2 people when you have a mare and foal to be able to do the mares and the foals walk around at the end of their class. And when the remarks are being given out. So it's the owner's responsibility at that time to handle the mare and the foal. The handler only handles it for the actual class. At the actual individual showing of the horse. There's nothing worse than when people don't have enough help at occurring, because that's what slows everything up.
So you saw how they stood the mare and foal up to let them get a good confirmation look at the foal, and then now doing the free movement, and the experienced handlers know how to try to keep the mare on the outside with the foal on the inside so the judges can see them best. So this is where Megan was talking, where you need to have your own 2 handlers, one to have, because they have them after they do the movement, they have the entire class come back in where they read the scores and the ranking of the foals. But I'm going to start, is it really sketchy?
No,
It's
I think it's
sketchy.
good. Yeah,
Or
but
is it okay?
yeah, but you can still see what is happening. So I think that's good. I mean,
Okay. So like I said, we won't show the whole video just because it's
And all of these videos are up on
the
our
YouTube.
YouTube, so feel free to go look at them whenever you want.
yeah, there's a playlist and that says Keurings, and there's like
Yeah.
70 videos in there. So if you
Yes.
watch all these videos, you'll get such a good impression of what Keurings, how they go and stuff. So
Yeah, and good thing is to watch the videos and then, write down some questions that you might get after watching the videos. And again, even with this webinar, you can call the office and ask more specific questions.
I'm always open to
And
phone
we'll call
calls.
Caitlin.
I'm always open to phone calls or emails as well. It doesn't have to be one of my clients. It's anybody who has current questions. It's fine.
I've got another question in the chat because Tina is
Okay.
asking, I know there is a dress code for handlers, but do we have to wear white at the walk around as owners too?
I
Well,
believe.
it's preferred, but
Yeah.
if you can't, you could always wear khakis or something like that. I mean, most people try to wear the white, but if you can't find white pants, you're not going to get kicked out of the Keuring.
Yeah.
if you do
I
the
mean, if you
handling,
just have to
you're-
like jump in for a second
Yeah.
to help somebody, I'm sure
Yeah.
they're not gonna kick the foal out. So.
And the
you're-
Amish don't wear white. They
Mm-mm.
wear, because
No.
they have to wear black, but
Yeah.
you
They
know,
wear
just be
whatever they want.
respectful in what you wear and have proper
Right.
footwear. No, you know,
Yeah.
most people don't want you
Appropriate
wearing.
shoes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Just look
want you
tidy.
wearing.
And also, if you do the handling yourself, like in the classes, you do have to have, obliged by the,
Yeah.
dress code, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is all white, by the way, if you didn't know.
Yep.
Very flattering.
Yes.
It's a great color.
Great color for horses.
Okay, so moving on to the stud book and star class for mares, geldings and stallions 3 years and older. Again, here the horses should be braided, presented in a bridle. Leg protection is not allowed unless they're doing free jumping. And as we discussed before, the predicates that a mare can get in this class would be being entered into the stud book, receiving their star predicate, and possibly even getting Cur eligible. So here's another Iron Spring video.
Oh my gosh, this is a blast from the past. I love this horse.
So what they're doing here is they're walking the horse on the hard surface. They're looking for any blemishes, abnormalities, making sure the horse is sound to come in the ring. And they'll measure her at that point as well. So we'll get an official measurement for her file.
Because there are height requirements for stud book as well as a height requirement for the star predicate.
Yeah.
So this is the Liberty, the free movement that they do. You'll see how they have the diamonds set up in the ring and they have the horse go around. If the mare or gelding or stallion won't settle to a good trot, like Megan said, they might have the handler gather them up themselves. Typically, they try to get them to do the jog and canter on their own, but if necessary, you can have the handler step in for that. But they are going to want to see their canter and their trot. Iron
She's
Spring does very nice
stunning.
videos.
Oh,
Very,
she's
very
so
nice.
stunning. I've got some questions in the chat, guys.
Okay.
One is, what's the benefit of showing a yearling? Would it be better to wait until 3 and under saddle? That's the first
Kind of.
question.
Kind of really a personal preference, I would say. I mean, especially for this year, I think we're going to get a lot of yearlings because they didn't get a chance to go last year
Or the year before.
or the year before. I think it really just depends on what stage your yearling's at. If they're looking really good and not looking totally like an ugly duckling, then I would say bring them. I mean,
Donkey teenager.
it's always a chance for you to win prize money and to be ranked in the top 10s.
And I tell people, I think we talked about this in the last webinar, a lot of people use them as marketing tools. It's a really good photo shoot opportunity. You've got your horse braided up, looking all nice. There's typically professional photographers at the Keuring where you can get some really nice photographs of your horse. In the program, you list if the horse is for sale. It's just it can also be a good marketing tool if your horse is for sale. A lot of people like to use they were either a site champion or in the top 10. And those are all options that you can get from it, bringing them to the Keuring. In the past, we typically did not have a whole lot of yearlings and 2-year-olds, but enough to have a class. And again, with last 2 years not having Keurings, I think a lot of people will want them seen, even though they're not typically at their best at that age. But it's mostly a personal preference.
And if they get a first premium, if they didn't go as a full and they get a first premium, it counts towards breeders' points as well. So
That too.
But you have to be realistic in your expectations because yearlings are very growthy. We only, like this year for Iron Spring, we're only going to show one yearling because we think she's pretty special. But if close to the Keuring, she looks goofy, we'll scratch her. It's a good opportunity to give them some like quote unquote show experience as well. Like they get to get out and about, but you also have to remember if your foal doesn't, if your yearling doesn't do well, if it gets a second premium, that's okay. It's not a permanent black mark. It's nothing. It just means maybe it's at a funny stage in growth. It doesn't mean that's why the 3-year-old inspection is so important. That's when you're going to get your linear score. So you have to go into it with the right mindset.
Okay, thank you
A
guys.
second premium does meet the breed standards. It just means that 70% of the horses will be a second premium and only like 30% get first premium, I think.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. For free jumping, is leg protection allowed on front and back?
I don't know.
I think it's just front legs. You got to look it up in
Yeah.
the booklet real quick.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up in the book right now, but I'm not finding it. I think
it just
it's
says
only
leg
front,
protection in the book.
but I also think that you can for the dressage horses as well, only in front.
I don't remember ever having seen front and
Yeah, I
back.
don't think you can wear anything
Yeah.
on the dressage horses.
I don't think so either.
We'll
I'll
have to
try
come
to
back
have
to that.
Yeah,
Yep.
we have our handbook open in front of
4
us as
legs.
well.
Yeah,
Four-
just 4 legs.
4 leg. And
Meaning
jumping
not
only.
the number 4, meaning
Oh,
the front
the
leg.
front.
4 legs.
The
Not
front
the number
legs.
4.
I
Yes,
just wanted to clarify that.
the front 2.
Thank you. Okay, let's proceed.
So here we'll talk about the stud book reinspection for star and the star reinspection for cur. So the stud book reinspection for star class is going to be for mares who have previously reached their the stud book standard at a previous Keuring, but maybe didn't receive a score that was sufficient enough for star. Maybe she wasn't tall enough. I mean, you know, there could be a variety of reasons why she just didn't quite meet the star standard the last time. So they have actually a separate class from the stud book class. So they're just going to be judged with those other mares that are being re-inspected for star, not against all the mares going for stud book. And then you have your star reinspection for cur and elite, which is again, the horses who reached star at their last inspection, but didn't get cur or elite. So if the mare has already passed her IBOP or received her sport predicate prior to the Keuring and she scored high enough to be cur eligible, then she'll become cur automatically if you enter her in that class. The Register A mares do have to complete the DJD navicular x-rays as well in order to become cur. And then in order for a cur mare to become elite, she'll need her DOC predicate. And that's the hair test for osteochondrosis that we send over to Holland. They get a score. And if they pass, they get the DOC predicate. That is, so the DOC and the IBOP are what are going to get that mare to elite. And again, for Register A mares, they do have that 8-view x-ray requirement as well. So this is the DOC requirement is for both full book and Register A mares, whereas the x-ray requirement is just for those Register A mares.
And I just realized this video is the same video that was on the previous screen. I had put it in the wrong place. So I don't have a video for the stud book reinspection for stir, but I believe they would do it almost the same, especially if the mare didn't make the height requirement. Maybe she's grown a little bit. We know these guys can be a little slow growing. They would measure them again and re-inspect them completely to potentially get the star or cur predicate.
They don't get a new linear score though.
No,
Right.
No, they'll look at them for soundness and stuff and they'll look at them, but once you get your linear score sheet, you get it. So the only
That's
thing they
it.
would change would be the height.
Okay.
I have another question, guys.
Okay.
It says, do register A mares need to do those DGD and X-rays if their sire already did them, or if they are from an approved sire from a thoroughbred mare?
Sorry, I'm trying to like put this together in my brain.
It's in the chat, so maybe you can reread the question.
Okay.
Well, if a stallion did the x-rays, the mare does
Yeah.
not, the offspring do not need to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
There
Correct.
are a few stallions. It's a very select few stallions who, you know, meet this requirement that, you know, if they have done all the x-ray requirements, then those register A mares do not have to do
Those X-rays.
the x-rays to get to cur or elite. But you would just want to check with us to see if that stallion meets that requirement, because it's a very specific group of stallions.
Right. This was in the previous one as well. I believe it's on our website. It's just a nice little flow chart about how to get a full book or register a mare to cur and elite. I just left it in here. I'll be posting the PowerPoints on the website, and there'll be a really good reference tool for everybody. It'll have the links to the videos, even though you could just go to the YouTube page and look at those directly. But these are all good references to hopefully help you understand the entire process.
And the veterinary tests are a little bit different for harness and gelders horses. So if you have a specific question about those, we're obviously talking mostly about riding horses, just because that's mostly what we have. But if you have a specific question about the harness and the gelders, just let us know in the chat or call
I think
us.
I have still the register B mare to stud book in here, but the harness and the gelders breeding directions don't have enough of a population to be able to do that DOC test, so they still have to do the PROC, which is the 22 views that used to be what mares would do in order to become elite. The DOC has now replaced that. You could still do it and get that PROC predicate, but harness and gelders, they still have to do the PROC because the DOC is not available to them.
And the PROC doesn't count towards current elite for riding type mares.
Yeah, they have to have that DOC unless their pedigree is not.
Which is rare. I mean,
Rare.
if the pedigree for some reason has a big gap in it, or they don't have enough of information to do the DOC test on them, then they will request that you do the PROC instead. But I've only had that happen one time with a riding mare. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question. It says, is
Okay.
there a minimum age before taking the DGD and navicular test?
The DJD and navicular tests, I think, have to be done
Third month of their second.
April of their 2-year-old year or later, just like the PROC. The DOC does not have a minimum age though.
Hair can
There's
be done at any
yeah,
time.
there's lots of people who submit them as foals just so they have them on file or they know. So
Okay.
so now we'll move on to the advice class for two-year-old and up stallions. This is the kind of the pre-licensing path.
Yeah.
So this is available for 2-year-olds and up. If you have a stallion that's 3 or 4 and you still just aren't sure, you can take them for the pre-advice class.
Actually,
They could, but this is different.
okay.
So this class is a little bit special in that these colts actually have to have their pedigrees approved before being allowed to enter the class. The jury in Holland will look at these pedigrees and basically determine whether they are interesting for the breeding population in North America.
For that year.
Yeah, for that year. It only stands for 1 year unless told otherwise. So these colts will be like separate from the 2-year-old colt and geldings class. It's not the same with the first and second premiums and all that. It's a completely separate class. They have a completely separate score sheet. These colts will be measured and they'll have their own linear score sheet. They'll do the hard surface and the free movement as well. And they take a little bit more time than
they
they
would
would
for the 2-year-old
with
young
just the
horse.
regular 2-year-olds. They're really looking at these not just to breed standard, but to stallion standard, which is a little bit different. So it's a good option for those who aren't sure if their stallion's going to make the cut, or you know, maybe he's just not ready for licensing, or they're trying to decide whether to sell or geld. It's a really good way to get in there for a lot cheaper before you put the work in for the veterinary tests and the training and all of that. So
What are the charges for DOC and all those things?
DOC is $250. And then the PROC, navicular DJD, if you have a stallion that needs to do an endoscopy, any of those things, they're 150 each. But there's no
Okay.
charge for pedigree approval.
Right,
So
okay.
if, you know, if you're thinking about coming for licensing or pre-advice, the pedigree approval is totally free.
At this time,
Yes,
I heard it might change.
right now.
I've been wondering about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is that in the Stallion Committee in Holland is not always familiar with our dam lines here in North America. So we do tell people to get as much supporting documentation on the dam line as you can get. If she has any sport results, if she has other offspring with sport results, siblings, just any kind of supporting documentation you can on the dam line, because they will know a lot more about the dam lines in Holland, but they don't know about these dam lines here in North America and don't really have a way of getting sport results and that. So I always tell people to get as much information as you can for the dam lines. The stallions, typically they're going to be familiar with the sires, but the dams, they want as much information. For those of you that have watched our annual meetings and watched Hank's review of the Stallion show, you see really how much emphasis they put on the dams, the dam side,
Performance,
and
yeah.
the predicates and sport results that they have and how high they went in competition.
Especially with the hunters as well, because they're really not as familiar with hunters over there. So they really want as much information as they can get about sport results and you know, achievements in the hunter direction as well.
Especially if the dam line is really like long
Yeah.
bred in North America, you know, if it's an
Yeah.
imported mare, it's different. But if it's a mare line that has, you know, like a couple generations in North America, you really need to make sure you go into USDF and get all the sports results of the dam line and write it all down neatly in an Excel sheet or whatever. It really helps.
Yeah, if you think it's overkill, it's not.
No.
There's
No.
no such thing as overkill when it comes to pedigree approval.
Yeah, they want as much information as they've even come back to us and like asked if we could get more information on a particular dam line. They're really interested in that information.
Okay. I have another question. Those fees are just from the KWPN, correct? So for the DOC and stuff, owners pay their own veterinarians, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have obviously a separate cost from the veterinarian to pull those x-rays. And then it's 150 to submit them because we have to pay for the committee to review them. So
Yeah. If someone is watching this webinar and thinks, oh, well, this pulls me over the line, I really want to show my colt this year, and they're too late now because the documentation for sending in pedigree approval was the 1st of June. So what can they do? Can they still try? Can you guys still try to get approval right now, or it will be tricky, or what do you advise?
we're not accepting more pedigrees at this point. We tried to push it back as much as we could. I mean, in
It
years
used to
past,
be-
it was April.
Shoot, before that was March.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that all the judges that are reviewing these pedigrees have enough time to really put the work in and not be rushed.
Because we still have a list we haven't gotten back yet, right?
Right, I'm still waiting on the dressage horses still.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't bring your colt to the Keuring. He'd just have to go in the class with the 2-year-old colts and geldings, or if he's 3, he'd go in the stud book star class. You can still bring him. You can even tell the judges, hey, I'm thinking about keeping him a colt. He just wouldn't get,
Recommend me bringing him back.
yeah, it's
And
just
then
gonna
make sure you
be,
get the pedigree next year.
yeah. The procedure would just be a little bit different. They won't look at him for quite as long, but they'll still give you an honest opinion whether they think he's, worth bringing back.
Yeah, no matter what the age, whether they're a
Yeah.
yearling or a 2-year-old or an 8-year-old, they can go in their appropriate age group in the stud book star class.
Yeah.
And, you know, you might even end up with a star stallion, you
Mhm.
know, if it's an older horse. So you can still get your horse evaluated, but like they said, it just won't be as in depth. But the judges can give you some advice, like they can say, well, we'd like to see him come back. They will
Yeah.
still say or please send his pedigree in. So you
Yeah.
will get good input.
Yes,
They've picked horses out, even if they, you know,
weren't there for advice.
right, they'd say, you know, oh, that's a really
Bring
nice,
that back
you know,
next year. We want to see them.
yeah. So they're very good about picking out the ones they like. They're not
Yeah.
afraid to tell you.
What score do you have to get on the DOC test to get the predicate?
It's 99, no, 96. 96
Yeah.
is the minimum score. So
And as far as explaining how they get that score,
we're not
No.
geneticists.
No.
Don't ask.
it's very complicated. Then
That's a whole nother webinar. We're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, yeah.
current
I mean, I
processes,
couldn't do it.
so
It's, yeah.
Danielle would have to come on. and
Yes,
explain that.
exactly. It's very complicated.
Yeah,
Those
we're
are
planning
extra
on,
extra,
gets-
extra things. So let's not spend too
Yes.
much time on that.
Yeah.
okay.
Any other questions right now?
Nope.
Okay. So, moving on to licensing for stallions 3 years and older. This also requires pedigree approval and the same requirements as you would have done for the pre-advice class. Get as much supporting documentation you can on the mare line. This is real, it's very, very involved. They do the linear scoring, they do the measurement, the confirmation and free movement. The score sheet that we print out for licensing and even the pre-advice is like 3 pages long. They really put a lot of time into looking at these stallions. And
They'll expect to see them, you know, ridden
Right.
as well. They'll need to do their IBOP.
yeah,
So
they do have to pass a performance test. So I have a video, I think it's El Primo. This is courtesy of DG Bar Ranch and Willie's amazing Vimeo channel that I did not know existed until Liz sent it to me. It's really nice. So So maybe Caitlin, do you want to talk about this a little bit since you've experienced it?
I can. Yeah, we just put this video together. This was from El Primo's approval. So this is his free movement portion here. And then I think it'll take us into Willie riding him in his IBOP class. It's a little choppy on my end, so
Is
sorry.
it? Okay. So I'm going to fast forward to the writing.
Oh, he goes really fast.
Okay. So one thing we get a lot of questions about is knowing the test, which is published on the website, and finishing up updating all the tests in the Keuring book. We didn't used to publish the call sheet for the DG Bar class or the ES Cup, but they've said now that we can publish that. But they do call the class for him. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can hear them giving the instructions to Willie of what to do at what points.
it's basically just like a reader for a regular
Mhm.
dressage show. So a reader is
The-
allowed.
The DG Bar Cup one is a little, it's a little
Yeah.
bit more confusing than the IBOP. The IBOP is a little bit more like a dressage test. But because in the DG Bar Cup, there's more than one horse in the ring, typically, they oftentimes have you do everything twice. So it's a little bit, yeah, to read it, it'll tell you like on the long side opposite the judge. It's a little bit different, but
Okay.
so it is, I think it is important that that's called. But it is nice for the rider to have reviewed it first so they know what to
Yes.
expect.
So this is part 1 of the dressage IBOP, correct?
Correct, yes.
And when they come back for part 2, which is the DG Bar Cup, which you don't have to, but you can participate in the DG Bar Cup, but you still have to do part 2 of the IBOP.
Yes, I think they're yeah.
And just
I don't
for
know.
reference, he
On this
was,
video, I'm not sure if he does it.
I don't
With
think
another
it's on
horse or
here.
not. Okay.
and just for reference, like if you're looking at this horse, he is 3 here. So, you know, you can just kind of see what they're looking for at age 3. This stallion got his license that day. So you can kind of see what they're looking for and what they're rewarding.
I have a question in the chat. It says the documentation mentions tests. Are all those published? And for the performance scoring tests, are those regular USEF dressage tests?
We have our own like IBOP test. So you're not going to go in and just do like a 4-year-old test or a 5-year-old test. It's going to be a specific test, and we do have those published.
Yeah.
So you can find all of those on our website or email us and we can send them to you.
Probably should.
But yeah, they are specific tests that were designed by the jury in Holland.
Yes.
So
Now, Drew did go through it last year and what we called Americanized it. In the past, the test read differently than what most Americans or North Americans would be used to in a dressage test. And she kind of translated it into more verbiage that we're used to, and BART approved it. I think it will help people a lot easier to read. It's a lot easier to read. We just kind of use different terms.
yeah, just terms that, you know, you would find in the USEF, USDF tests. So.
Yeah.
One
And
thing
it's
I like,
also,
oh,
sorry.
No,
It's also
I just
done
want-
in a short court. That's the only thing I was just gonna remind people
Yes,
too, that are
yes.
used to doing a big dressage court, so.
And also, you're not riding a dressage test. This is more to evaluate the horse's gaits and how they use
Yeah.
their body. So that's important to keep in mind, because at my Keuring, often we'll get dressage riders come in with their young horses and then they get upset when they get, sometimes they're criticized for things. The judges don't get upset if the horse, as you know, they want to see them be obedient, of course, but they're not going to nitpick like a dressage judge would. They're really trying to
Right.
see how the horse moves and uses its body. So keep that in mind. They want to see them moving forward, and Caitlin can tell you what they want to see. But
Well,
that's
and
important.
yeah, I've also seen them too, you know, when we've had someone come in, an outside rider doing an IBOP, and they think that there's potential for the horse to maybe show a little bit better. Sometimes they'll even, you know, tell the rider, we would like you to show them a little more open, you know, just a
Right.
little bit, because they want the horse to go to its best potential. Everybody wants the horses to get the max that they can. So it's very important that you, just know that it's not a dressage test. You're not going to get scored on how you did the halt and things like that. So
Yeah, you could kind of see Willie in the video. He, you know, kind of exaggerated his hands a bit. You know, sometimes he'd, you know, move his legs around a little bit because they're really not looking at him. They're looking at the horse, and he's getting the horse forward to the best of his ability, even if he's not as quiet as he would be at a dressage show. So.
Because IBOP, it stands for individual, like the B stands for like how you can use the horse. So it's like the individual usage of the horse.
Is that what I have had that question and I didn't know how to answer it. So thank you.
Yeah, it's like in Dutch is individueel bruikbaarheidsonderzoeks paarden. And that means it's like the individual tests for the use, like how it's rideable, like how the horse can be used. So if you're like an IBOP for dressage, they're looking at like, is this horse usable, literally translated, for dressage? That's what they're looking for. And then they're looking at their age group, you know, so you do an IBOP for a certain age group and level, and that's what they're looking for. So it's not like a dressage test. And then you have that for all kinds of disciplines, like the 4 or 5 breeding directions that we look at here. So I have a question from Tracy Geller. Can someone talk about the hunter jumper IBOPs and how they are different? So that kind of like relates to what we're talking about now.
Well, before we go to that, I want to add one more thing about the dressage IBOP. So in the DG Bar Cup, well, in the part 2 of the IBOP, whether you're entered in the DG Bar Cup or not, the reason there's more than one horse in the class is to help keep the young horses relaxed. So some people get confused about that, but that's because if they're in a small group, 2 or 3 horses in the ring, it helps them not get too tense and nervous, and the judges can see the horses better, you know, than when they're all stressed out. Now, when you go to the older horse test, they just do it by themselves. But for the young horses, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they do it in groups of 2 or 3 when possible. And that's the same for the jumpers or the dressage. Unless I'm wrong, you can correct me, Caitlin, you'll know better than me.
No, yeah, the only one that it's necessary to do alone is the older horse test, because yeah, you cannot do that in the ring with another horse, the 7-year-old test. But
Right,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, and it's sort of nice because, like Megan said, if you have a young horse, it's nice if some of the horses are a little intimidated by the arena or the situation, and if you have one that's confident, the other one can follow, and you can make a circle. And yeah.
So yeah,
And-
we actually do have
a 100
IBOP
a
jumper.
100
again would
jumper
be alone.
IBOP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I forgot the video credit. This is Katie Moriarty and On Course Riding Academy. This is kind of long. I'll show it for a little while and get an idea of how much, because it seems the horse does a good fair amount of jumping. And if there's any hunter jumpers in here that have experienced the IBOP, I would certainly appreciate some input.
You can kind of see how they set up the ring. So they have some trot poles in the middle that they'll put up to a cross rail for the horse to kind of warm up over. And then they have a line of verticals, or, you know, a vertical to an oxer. And then they have a couple of like a 3, you know, 3 fences on the other side. So they have the cross rail in the middle, the 2 fences, and then the 3 fences on the other side. So it's not like a full, you know, 12 jump course or anything. They're going to kind of tell you what they want to see. If they want you to do it again, go the other direction, whatever, they're going to tell you that.
But
They
they're
can have-
gymnastic lines, because they want to
Yeah.
see how the body uses. It's not really a course, it's more
Yeah.
gymnastics, because they're trying to
not
build the
figure out
horse's
course.
confidence into the jump. So you start
Yeah.
with the cross rail and you go up. They're trying to make the horse succeed, and they want to see its balance and that type of thing, and its
Yeah.
adjustability. Those are 2 really important things. So, and
Yeah.
they will raise the jumps, you
Mm-hmm.
know, depending on the horse's ability, but they don't want to scare it or anything. But that's what makes the jumping IBOP take longer.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there are 2 horses in the ring here. You can have more than 1 horse in the ring. At a lot of these sites, we only have 1 or 2 jumping IBOPs
Yeah.
usually, but you know, it's not like a 3-year-old's going to be put in with an 8-year-old or anything like that.
Right.
So they'll be judged kind of in the same age groups.
And it's
in the
my
festival.
understanding that they kind of raise it on the horse's availability or
Ability.
ability.
Yeah,
Oh, jump, yeah.
yeah, totally. They don't want to overface these horses. They want them to
Right.
keep their confidence.
So we're trying to fast forward just a little bit. You can kind of see here where they'll go through some of the lines, and you can see the succession as they raise the jumps a little bit based on how the horse handled the jump before. So you can kind of see right along here, each line they go, the jumps are a little bit higher.
Just like they do with the free jumping. I mean, they're
Mhm.
not going to overwhelm them right at the very.
And if a horse has a fault, if a horse pulls a pole, that isn't the kiss of death, because
Right.
what they want to see is, does the horse correct itself the next time? So
Right.
all of that is good information for them. So that's all part of the scoring. Not
Yeah.
that he pulled a pole, but how did he react to doing that?
And this horse, I don't know what year this video was taken, but this horse has actually done an IBOP several times. So it's pretty experienced. Not that it failed, it just, Katie likes to put people on this horse to like learn about how to do an IBOP. So it's kind of cool. You know, the fences are obviously getting a little bit bigger for this horse, but they're not going to expect your 3-year-old to jump,
Right.
you know, 5 foot.
And all the heights are in the book.
Yes.
there's a range.
Mhm.
And if your horses need to be trained for this and the free jumping, because if they go in there and they don't know what they're doing, they will stop the test and they will
Yep.
excuse the horse.
They will.
And we
excuse
see
them.
that frequently because when people don't train their horses, because they don't want to have the horses get hurt. And sometimes people don't practice, especially with the free jumping, and they think the Keuring should be able to practice, and that's not a good thing.
And the IBOP is something too that, you know, if they don't necessarily get the score the first year, they can come back the next year when they're a little bit more prepared, a little bit older, a little bit more developed. There's nothing to say that they can't try the IBOP several times until they get it. So
And the DG Bar Cup is broken down into different age groups. You have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds, and 7 and 8-year-olds. And then the GES Cup is broken down similarly, but 3 and 4-year-olds are free jumping, and then they added 5 to 8-year-olds are under saddle. And then if we have any of our harness people, I don't have a video of the Fine Harness Cup, but I think we're gonna try and get one up on the YouTube page if we can figure out how to download it.
it's set up kind of similarly to like the DG Bar Cup or part 2 of the IBOP, where, you know, there are several horses in the ring at once and they basically call out what they want to see.
Yeah,
So
they do it individually first, though, right? The first one's by themselves, second one's together.
for the Fine Harness Club.
I can't remember. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we attended a Keuring.
We're remembering.
Yeah,
just
I
like
might be
you
able
guys
to find a video of the Gelder IBOP for you if you need that.
Okay, yes, we'll try to get it up on the YouTube page. These also, I just left them in from the previous Keuring because they're really good references, and for the previous webinar that we did, the different predicates for the different breeding directions. But we had gone through all of that. This is what I was talking about on the harness, getting them, you can actually get a register B mare into the stud book, but where the proc is required and an endoscope. So that kind of covers the generalization of everything that happens at a Keuring. We'd love kind of really good involved question and answer here. We get a lot of calls here in the office and we've been asked every different kind of question, but for this purpose and for recording this webinar, it would be really great if some other people had some questions that Caitlin and Megan and Liz could chime in on and help us answer some of the questions.
I have one
Okay.
from Sydney. She asks, I have a stare harness mare. Can I get reevaluated to become Keur riding eligible? So can you move breeding
Harness?
directions?
Yeah, it's a harness mare.
Oh, not for a harness mare. Harness horses have to stay in the harness breeding direction. They can get an IBOP in a different discipline or different breeding direction, but it would not count for them to get their Keur. They can only get Keur with a harness IBOP.
Mhm. So to get her to elite, because all star harness mares are automatically Keur eligible. This is something that's a little bit different about the harness direction. So in order to get her elite, she would have to do an IBOP in the harness direction and the proc.
Yeah.
So
I have a question from Bailey. She says, for the gelders, do they do a dressage IBOP, then have time to change tack and come back for the jumping IBOP?
yeah, I mean, they would definitely have time in between for
Yeah.
sure.
I would think the office will sometimes put together a schedule for the host. Some hosts do their own schedules. I would think in the scheduling, they would definitely allow sufficient time for the mare or the horse to catch their breath, change tack, and not be completely exhausted. And I think that's one thing I actually forgot about in the performance test is in the gelders, they choose 2 of the 3. You could do dressage, jumper, or a harness. They just have to choose 2 of those 3 IBOPs for the gelders.
Is it, if you think it, if you have a Gelders horse and you think that's too much to do in 1 year, can you also decide to do one of the two 1 year and then the next year the other
No, I think you have to do them both in the same year.
on
Yeah,
the same
because
day?
it's basically a two-part thing for
Yeah,
the Gelders horse, so they'd have to be done in the same year.
okay.
And the
But
Gelders,
They're short tests. They're not gonna
Yeah.
make,
Yeah.
the horse, should be able to handle it. They're not gonna, your horse
No.
needs to be fit, but not crazy.
Yeah, I
fit.
mean, if-
they know they're young horses.
their test is a little
If
bit-
you've ever done eventing, you have what, a 3 to 4 minute dressage test and then maybe a little bit of a break and then go jump like 12 fences. It's definitely within the realm of possibility. It shouldn't be too terribly difficult for them fitness wise.
Exactly. I have another question. When can we expect to hear from the host regarding the upcoming Keurings?
Typically, so the cutoff date for the September, the 2-week Keuring tour we have in September, we have a few Keurings in October, but the base cutoff is August 31st. I will probably send the host a preliminary list around the beginning of August, maybe first week into August. And that would just give them an idea of maybe going ahead and contacting people, but technically the cutoff date for the entries isn't until August 31st. And that's why I give ourselves a couple weeks between the cutoff date, because we have to make the schedules, order ribbons, get everything ready to ship to all the hosts. But the judge, the host can go ahead, we give them a preliminary list, they can contact them, but they're going to get entries up to August 31st for them to be able to send the information out. But I usually send a preliminary list of entries a few weeks before the actual cutoff so that the host can start contacting their attendees. I do know that a lot of people have already contacted the host of the Keuring they want to go to. They may not have all of the information together yet because they don't know how many horses are coming for them to make their final information. But you can go ahead and contact your host now, but they're not going to have the full list of how many entries they have until the entry deadline is cut off.
So basically, do contact them for stabling and any just like housekeeping questions that you have, but I wouldn't expect a schedule until right before the Keurings.
Right. And I do know we have one location that stabling is already sold out.
Yeah,
Get
your stabling.
Yeah, contact your host for stabling. And that's why I've kind of put in some e-blasts that I've sent out to get your Keuring entries in. We were expecting really high entries this year as we didn't have Keurings for the past 2 years. And we're seeing that in some locations, not so much in others, but I still would highly suggest getting your Keuring entries in. And what we also told people before, if you go ahead and put an entry in, and even if your foal is not born yet, you can put 2022 in the dam's name. If before August 31st, you feel like your horse is not ready for the Keuring and they're not going to be prepared, you can scratch with a full refund. I'd rather be able to scratch a horse than not get your horse in because the particular site is full. We are doing these this year as a first come, first serve basis. And I do think some locations will actually fill up and there will then be a waiting list. And if there's a scratch, we'll move horses up on the waiting list.
I have a question. After submitting the paperwork, do we get an acknowledgement of acceptance into the Keuring?
I mean, as far as like from the office, as long as everything is in order, no news is good news from us. If you're missing something, we will tell you for sure.
You can sign into your member portal and
Mhm.
look at your horse. You can go and it should be able to tell you which Keurings they are enrolled in. We did this in 2019, and we'll maybe try to do it again, an Excel spreadsheet,
yeah.
like a Google sheet that you can look up to make sure that all of your stuff is in. We would obviously be in contact with you if you're missing something crucial. But you should be able to look into your member portal and see where your horse is signed up for an inspection. But as long as if you've seen the charge go through, or your check cashed, I think it's safe to assume your entry is in there. But if you sign into your member portal and you don't see that entry in there, you should call the office.
Or if you're
Okay.
just not sure and you want to double check,
That too.
I don't
Hey,
mind.
Kelly and
Yeah.
Drew, you keep a list of locations that have like a certain limit, right? So you know that if someone tries to sign up for Keuring at that location, you'll tell them immediately that it's full. So people won't have to worry that they're signed up for Keuring that they can't go to because it's full, right?
Right, yeah, the hosts are pretty good about telling us, this is my cap. They can obviously accept more horses than they have stabling for usually, but the hosts are pretty good about letting us know if they have a hard cap, they will tell us. So we would let you know if that information was available to us.
We would tell you that you were on a waiting list and wait and see if there's some scratches and you get moved up into that. I know that's not ideal for training and preparation. But again, we were expecting higher than usual entries this year. We're not seeing that yet, but we hope to.
Okay, I have another question. What kind of halter do you recommend for yearlings, brown or black leather? Can it have stitching, embroidery, chain or no chain lead rope?
Definitely brown or black. I think it just kind of depends on the color of your horse or what you prefer. I don't think that there's a particular requirement about that. I don't think that they'll be terribly picky about stitching unless it's like really out there, like no purple stitching or anything like that. Most of the foals that I've seen have just been plain lead ropes. I don't know that chains are like completely forbidden, but most of the foals that I've seen have just been like cotton or leather.
I think that was for a yearling she was asking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, same with the yearlings, I would think.
Well, some people might need to use a chain,
I was
but
gonna,
Yeah.
it just depends on the
it's allowed if
situation.
needed. Is that correct, Megan?
Yeah, I would say, but you just, white ropes are really nice or leather, but if you need a chain, yes, we don't want anyone getting hurt.
Right.
And some yearlings are quite big.
Yeah, that's true.
And strong. Hey, isn't it allowed for harness and gelders to wear white halters? Because I've seen that at
Yes.
Keurings in
Yes.
the Netherlands. It's
Yeah.
just for gelders and harness, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, they have
Bridles,
these
yeah.
very
Special.
specific like bridles and halters that they get made that are really flashy. Yeah, it's just for gelders and harness though.
Okay. I have another question. For the yearlings, do you know what the judges will look for in a jumper versus a hunter?
I'm not a judge. I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you. It's
Well-
all part of their training, I would say, but
Yeah, they're looking at, the way does the horse move like a hunter? Does he carry himself does he have super quick reflexes, or is he a little more quiet and relaxed? I think what they're looking for is posted on the website for each type, isn't it?
yeah, all of the general specifications for each breeding direction should be both in the if you have one of the older handbooks that has all the stuff at
And
the
that's
beginning,
online too.
and yeah, all of that is online as well. So
Okay, are there any more questions? And are there any more tips that more experienced Keuring goers can share with the less experienced ones? You have any tips?
My
Please share
biggest
them.
tip is have enough help, be there on time. Pay attention, because like to the timing and stuff, because it's really important that the Keurings move forward in we can't wait around all day for somebody, because the judges there's a really strict schedule. The judges have to look at all the horses and then get on to the next Keuring. So I'm sure some people think I'm really mean at the Keuring because I'm pretty strict. I'm strict about things like safety, and
You're
we don't want
efficient.
people.
That's
Well,
strict.
I'm strict, but we want people to be safe. We don't want anyone getting kicked in the head, because it's a Keuring, so the horses act differently. They're more, they're excited, they're nervous. So it's, we don't like people doing stupid things like walking behind horses, and we want people to be aware. So just be conscious when you're at the Keuring that, these are young horses and people don't want anyone to get hurt. And just to be on time, better to be early. And it's not a dressage show. So if your host gives you, you have a schedule, realize that time is just a guideline. It could vary, it could go early, it could go late, it depends on how many scratches. And it's not like a dressage show where you get to go at that time no matter what. So you have to be flexible on the day
I
of
would
the Keuring.
also really encourage people, even if you don't have a horse to take this year, go watch one.
Yeah.
You learn so much just going and watching. It's unreal how much you
Yeah.
can learn. And it is super helpful if you maybe have a horse to take next year, you have a foal due or what have you.
Knowing what to expect.
Yeah, you learn a lot just watching the more experienced people do it. So
I
And
know
hearing
I'm a
the
visual
feedback.
learner, and
Yeah.
being able to go to the Iron Spring Keuring opened my eyes to, and I still, after being here 5.5 years, obviously there's still things about the Keurings that we're unsure of, but being able to go and watch the two that I've been to helped me understand a lot more of the process than I understood before I went. When I started here, I'd never heard of a Keuring before.
Yeah, you should, what we do in the Netherlands a lot too, when the Keurings are like super big all the time, and then we always make like our little program book and then do our own scoring and wait what the judges will say and see if, we agree with the judges. And you'll learn so much, and we go like, what's your ranking? What's your ranking? And then at every end of the class, they have like, you go around with your horse, and then they'll place them in a certain order of the ranking they made themselves per class. And then at the end, you often have a class that goes for the numbers 1 and 2 of those classes, like a super, like a final. It's very interesting because the judges will always tell, why and what they thought of the horses. It's super, you learn so much from it. It's very funny. You can connect with all the other breeders and owners that are at Keurings. It's a social event as well. And I would just like to give the tip also, like you guys mentioned before, that it is very, very smart to have a professional handler do your horse, because the horse oftentimes, they behave a little different than you're used to, and you're stressed, the horse feels it, and the professional handlers, they really know what they're doing to make your horse look as best as possible. So
and
it's
if
really
you're in the
worth
ring
it.
with them and, worried about baby shenanigans, you're not able to listen as closely to the judge's advice and what they're saying. So sometimes it's just better, at least that first or second time, just to let the pros do it and sit back and really take it in as an owner.
Yeah, because you figure a lot of the babies and even yearlings, it might be their first time off of their farm and going somewhere. So, horses are unpredictable, and it is really good to have somebody who is very experienced and knows what they're doing.
I had to hold a baby at a harness Keuring once, and
It was difficult.
I thought it was going to jump on me. So it wasn't very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've known people that thought they could do their own horse. Like last year at a Keuring in the Netherlands, they said, I'm going to run my own horse. And everybody was like, no, don't do it. And she did it. She was a runner. So she's like, I can run really fast. I can do this. And then the horse outran her really bad. And it just wasn't just a mess. And she regretted it so much. She was like, I wish I would have done a hand. She was the only one at the whole Keuring doing it herself. So,
Oh, wow.
I have another question, by the way. I have
Okay.
a 4-year-old mare I'd like to present. It is her first presentation. Can she be presented in hand and do the IBOP at the same Keuring, or does she have to wait another year?
No, she can do everything at the same time. Typically, the sites will do the IBOPs in the morning, so you should probably plan on doing the riding first, and then they'll do the stud book class a little bit later in the day. So yeah, she can do everything at once.
Okay. Any more tips from experienced people? Are we going to round up, or are there any more questions?
Caitlin, Megan, do y'all have anything that you think we didn't touch on?
That we forgot, or?
No,
People should just reach out. Don't be shy. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And, even if the the host of the office doesn't have the answer right then, we'll get it for you. And
Yeah.
people will help you as
Mhm.
far as, you know, give you advice at the Keuring and encourage you. We want you to have a good experience, so.
And I do think all the videos that Liz has put together in the Keuring playlist on our YouTube channel are really great examples of what goes on. There are some really good videos on there. We kind of just picked out the most direct ones that showed a good procession of what was going on, but there's lots and lots of videos on there, and I think you'll learn a lot from those. You can also, in some of them, you can hear the judges talking a little bit and hear how they're scoring the babies and giving little tips, or not tips, but evaluation. And that's another good thing of you might miss out on hearing that if you're there handling your own horse, because they're really good about giving a good explanation, just a little short summary of each horse. It's really interesting.
Can
The
I
only
make,
other thing that I
Oops.
forgot to say is that if you're, you know, like for people who are doing an IBOP or the DG Bar Cup for the first time, come early to the place where you're going to be, ride there the day before if you can, talk to your host and see what's possible and give your horse a good chance to acclimate to the environment before you just come the same day and try to ride the test is very hard for a young horse. So talk with your host and see what's possible for coming early and walking in the arenas and things like that. So.
yeah, that's good. And also with the free jumping at our Keuring, we have had a practice day the day before. We schedule a time. We've done that before. And, you know, let people go into the ring that they're going to be in so they can ride around it. So that's great advice.
There are some videos with free jumping, or they're kind of more they're shorter clips, which is why I didn't pick those videos. There wasn't any really long ones, but there are some short clips of some free jumping to get an idea of how that works and how it's set up.
I wanted to throw something out there about there was a question about judging a hunter yearling, you know, compared to a jumper yearling. And I know I don't have that exact, but one thing that does happen, and we've seen happen at our Keurings, is someone might present their horse as a jumper, and the judges might say, you know, they'll watch the horse, and then they'll talk to the owner and they'll suggest maybe the horse switch to hunter or vice versa. So that is an option. If the judges think it's more of a different type, they will they'll talk with the owner and discuss it with you. They won't make you do it, but they'll make a suggestion. So
Yeah.
I've even seen them go from a jumper to dressage.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly. It does happen. So
And that's where the judges are really good, that they're going to give you their honest opinion, and that even though this horse may be bred jumper, they're really more suited to dressage and would score better and have a better chance at succeeding in that direction.
Yeah, they did
and
it
that
with,
doesn't mean the horse can't do that as a sport. What it means
Right.
is as a breed type. And sometimes
Mhm.
people get the things confused, sport,
Yeah.
a sport career versus the Keurings are about breeding stock. Okay, so they're judging them against the breed standard. It doesn't mean if your horse gets a second premium and is in the stud book, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. There's plenty of Olympic horses that were just stud book horses that were second premium. So
Yeah.
just go into it open-minded and don't feel like someone's telling you they hate your horse that you love. It has nothing to do with that. They're looking at it as breeding stock.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. They're different.
yeah, they've moved from dressage to gelders too, and vice versa. So,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I have another question, and I wanted to make a comment that if anyone has more videos that we can add to the playlist, that please send them to, you can send them to me because I manage the YouTube channel, like on Facebook, or pop me a message or send it to the office, and I'll add the video to our playlist, and that could really help other people that haven't been occurring yet. So if you have a nice video that you'd like to share, please let us know. And then I have one more question from Kelly. She says, is it worth taking a gelding through the process, especially if he's older, 3 to 6 years old? What do you guys think?
The gelding can get the star predicate. He could be stud book quality, not go into the stud book, but he can get the star predicate, which also could help the mare for her preference Predicate, so it absolutely can be worthwhile depending on
What your goals are.
what your goals are.
And a star gelding also counts for breeder status as well.
status, yeah.
So if that's important to you, then
Yeah, if
that's
you're
another-
working towards that next level of breeder status, that can absolutely help you as a breeding program and help that horse's dam as well. One other thing that I wanted to mention, we've been getting a lot of calls about possibly switching a horse to a gelders breeding direction. It is mostly typically pedigree based, but what the Gelder Stallion Committee has told us is no matter what, despite pedigree, thank you.
It has to come to a
thank you.
Keuring and the judges have to evaluate it.
Yeah.
It's a very specific type of horse with very specific requirements. Pedigree, confirmation, movement. So,
They basically said, no matter what, because we were feeling like we were just sending a lot of pedigrees over there, and each time, and he finally said, no matter what, they have to be seen at occurring in order to switch breeding directions.
Well,
So,
some people have gotten this misconception that
Yes.
gelders is kind of a catch-all.
Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah, we've been
it's
getting-
not. It's a type of horse, very specific. So
we've been getting a lot of people with the misconception that a gelders horse is just a harness with a riding type, which is
Yeah,
just
that's
not
not.
true at all. So, I mean, some of those horses can be gelders type, but that's not what makes a gelders horse.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and just a reminder, I just wanted to throw it out there right at the very end so we can just click off. No more branding, sorry.
Oh,
but
yeah.
We're
no
not
more branding.
branding.
I'm glad you remembered
anymore.
to say that, Drew.
Yes, thanks.
I was waiting until the end.
So we don't get yelled at.
But yeah, so the KWPN has asked us to stop branding. They have not branded in over 20 years. Just not something they do over there. It's an animal welfare thing. They've asked us to stop. As their daughter organization, we oblige. So unfortunately, no more branding for the KWPN horses in North America or anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
Thank you, girls.
Okay.
Thank you for clearing it all up, and thank you for
Okay.
all the great advice and the good presentation. We'll post the presentation on our website. And again, just go to the YouTube channel if you want to see all the videos that we displayed today. If you watch them on YouTube, you'll have them fresh and crisp and everything. It's just hard to show videos
Yeah.
on Zoom. They get a little
Streaming is
choppy and
just-
stuff. Yeah.
Doesn't work that well.
That's just how it is. But you can watch them all on YouTube multiple times. That's it, I think. If you have more questions, feel free to send them to the office or any of the KWPN people, or post them in the KWPN breeders and owners group, because there's a lot of experienced breeders and owners in there that will chime in and give you advice, whatever you need. And, call your host, be proactive, and ask them all kinds of questions that you're wondering about. Don't sit back and wait too long with signing up for the Keurings.
Yes.
I think
get your
I-
entries in.
Yeah, get your entries in, get your foals registered. I think I had handled everything right now, right? Do you have to add anything?
One thing about asking questions on the forums, one thing I want to say is really you should go to the office if it's a
Yeah.
technical or a rule question, because there's a lot of armchair warriors out there and you can get bad advice. It's better just to go to the source.
Okay.
So that's
And
just
one thing-
how I feel about that. That's my personal opinion.
So, anything
That's
else?
it. Thank you, Caitlin and Megan and Kelly and
Yes,
Drew for
thank
this
you all.
webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. I got a lot of thank yous for you guys in the chat too. So I hope this helped, and it will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good night. It's way
Good night,
past my
everybody.
bedtime.
Thank you all.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Night.
Bye, everyone.